Hi, this is Regeline Sabat, also known as Gigi. You're listening to Walk With Me podcast. My guest today is Mari Mendez. Mari Mendez is a holistic practitioner and she's a certified money coach. Welcome to the show, Mari.
Hi, how are you? Nice to be here.
Fantastic. It's such an honor to have you here today. Now, why don't you start off by telling us more about you and where you are from?
Oh, I'm from Puerto Rico. I was born and raised there. I moved to Florida when I was 30, and as I was being a mom, I became a mom at 30, moved to Florida at 33, and then became a mom for many years and lost a little bit of my identity in the process. And unfortunately, it took a divorce for me to rediscover who I was again and gain control of life in many ways. And then I'm here now. I mean, it's a process, it's a long story, but
Talk to us more about the divorce that you had to overcome.
oh wow. Well, you fall in love. You are actually uh, happy to be a mother. I Everything happened after I was 30, so I was a mature person already and was very happy to dedicate my life to my family. I actually left my career to take care of my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter that was injured at birth. I used to work for Motorola as my conductors, and I decided to be with her so I can give her therapies and be a full-time mom. And then one child became four children. At age 37, I had my last one, and by then we were living in Florida, and it was a little bit of a lonely life because I was mostly with the kids and never part of my husband's life. And we actually grew apart, and for a while things became a little bit hostile. Um, Towards the end, a little bit violent on his side, and I just decided to give him his space because I needed to figure out what was best for the family. So when he had a chance to move to Germany for a year, I decided to stay home. I had just started working in the workforce as a real estate agent because I knew I had given myself mentally 2 years for life to turn around, and it had been very bad, the marriage at that time. And unfortunately, I gave him. I mean, I fortunately I did give him a chance to go on his own and be there, do whatever he wanted to do, and hopefully um, have a change of heart towards the family. And it didn't happen. So eventually we ended up, divorcing. But I already knew before that happened. I already knew that we were going downhill. I could see it for a few years before that. I remember one time my parents were visiting, and I laid in bed with my father, just talking, and out of the blue I said, "I'm gonna divorce. I'm gonna get a divorce." And it took maybe 5 years after that, but I already knew it was happening, and I think that in a part of me knew that I wanted out because there were personality issues. So I just tried to make it work and have from my part and try to keep the family together as a well, because that's how you grow up knowing, right? To keep the family together and to be strong. But my strength came after, I have to say, when I decided to give myself those 2 years to to see what would happen. I said, well, in my mind, he never knew that. In my mind, I said, I'm gonna wait 2 years to divorce if he doesn't change, if things don't change. And I was always in connection with God and talking to God. And he actually spoke to me in my dreams, and I took a chance um, following the words. Oh my gosh, I'm getting here emotional, and I wasn't expecting this. Hearing those words, and that's when I discovered that, he was working away, he was with someone else, and that's when my the rose, what do you call, how do you call it in English? There's a phrase, the rose ceiling went down or it crashed. That's what it did, and I was just trying to make it work, make it survive. I became from the loving, caring, submissive wife that ideally, you know, men like supposedly, to the biggest biatch ever. You know, I played every role you could in that moment. Um, so I started seeing numbers, a lot of numbers, and that's way before I understood the angel messages and everything that comes through the numbers. And it was 7-Eleven. Every time I would see, I would wake up in the morning, it was 7-Eleven. I wake up and had not looked at the clock. It was 7-Eleven. When I look at the clock, it was 7-Eleven in my, in you know, going, could be $71.10, or it could be, anything I would be surrounded by. It was always 7-Eleven. Eventually, I understood, and I found a book. Someone gave me a book in a party, and that said that it was called Angels. I can't remember, something about angels, healing, healing with angels. And I saw that they had numbers, and that each number had a meaning. And the meaning of 7-Eleven is like, follow your path, follow what you have in your heart. That, I'll be protecting you. And I'm getting the chills now. So I don't know. I honestly, may be different from, I don't, I've seen a few of your podcasts, but I don't know. But I'm going to bring things that I don't know if your viewers are familiar with. But one day I had a lady, Jennifer. She showed up into my house to drop off her daughter that was friends with my daughter. So she was new in school, so I did not know her. And later she came home, and we started, I invited her to sit down, have a drink. There were two other moms there, and it happened that she's actually a psychic, and I had no idea. And she started saying, um, whatever you're going to be doing in May, don't be afraid of, do it. Everything else is going to stay in the past. And I never told anyone that May was when the 2 years that I'd given myself to, whether stay or not, would be happening. And I was just dumbfounded. I mean, it was like, wow, these people are real now. I mean, I was the most skeptical person until that day, and then eventually she would show up in my life and saying, things without asking. I would never ask, and she would just, offer me information. I said, thank you. Always skeptical, but then now, I'm now the biggest believer, because she was a messenger from God, right? She brought the information, and you know, it was a tough process to do. I had to convince myself that it was the right thing to do. Then I had to fight the family, in his family especially, and I decided to just, you know, pray. And that's when he got that offer to go to work for a year in Germany. And at that time, I did not realize it. And now I know this, that it was a gift from God. So God allowed me, or allowed him, to go work, do his, whatever assignment he had for a year. Everyone said that I was being stupid by not going to Europe and enjoying a whole year in Europe. But I knew I couldn't go in a country where I don't know the language, where um, I don't have family, I don't have a support system, and I needed to stay stable. I had gone back to the workforce, so I was just starting. I wasn't going to let it go after 10 years of not being, of being only a mom. I said, I have to stay focused. And I did it. And the day we dropped him off into the airport, no one cried. I didn't cry. He didn't cry. In the past, whenever he traveled, he would cry. No one cried. The girls did not cry. And that same day after we got home from dropping him, my second child, Andrea, came to me and said, Mama, guess what? And I said, What, Mama? Now we don't have to hear Papa yell at us when he comes from work. And that shocked me because it, you know that the environment is not good for your children, but that was a shock for me to hear her say that. How I think she was 7 when that happened. So it was so, I don't know, it was an eye opening to see how bad their environment was. So that was the beginning of the end. That was the beginning of the end. And when he came back after that year was over, he never came home straight. He spent like a few months, I don't know where, and then and I know he was already in the United States, and he decided to come back, but he doesn't tell me. He's just asking, "What are you doing?" Blah blah blah. And it was close around my birthday, and I said, "I'm not gonna be here." I sensed it, and I trusted my gut, so I packed my kids and I left. I left. I left to Orlando to a family member. While I was there, I made reservations for a whole week in Sarasota to be um, at the beach, but cheap. It was like a cheap hotel, like a day scene. It was a day scene. I guess it was like $225 the whole week to stay there. It had breakfast and everything. So the girls and I spent the whole week, and he was there. He came. He was calling me, looking for me, and I just said, "Hey, you never told me you were coming, so I had plans." So I told him I was in Miami, so he could look anywhere but where I was because I want to see him. I was so mad, I was so angry, and I didn't want. I wasn't ready to see him. And eventually, I went home, and then he, he went to Puerto Rico, so his family came back. And after that, he stayed home for about 2 weeks, and that's why I told him I wanted a divorce. I was like completely honest, but he didn't believe me. So when he left, which I was like, "Phew," because I had a trip to Nevada to Las Vegas, but it was a training trip. So I was going with a lot of other colleagues from work, from the real estate business, and I didn't want to tell him. And my parent, he left like in the morning, and in the evening, I picked up my parents from the airport, and the next day I left. And because my parents came to stay with the girls where I was, and that was hell. For some reason, he found out I wasn't home, and he was calling my cell phone, blowing it off day and night. Very scary. And we were like four of my colleagues and I were all four of us were sleeping in the same room because we all shared a room. And the women were like, "Stop it! Don't answer! Don't do," But I was so scared of what could happen. And one of those mornings that we were already in the training. It's a huge training from a major, it was a Mike Ferry training, I have to say. And I get hear my name like before the break. I hear my name, "Come from, we want to talk to you." And the lady that's talking to me is asking me the first question, like, "Are you married?" And I'm like, "What does it matter?" But that question told me he was there. And when he was supposed to be in Arizona, right? And his new station. And I panicked and I told her, I mean, I just like opened up completely. And what they actually upgraded me and my whole crew, 6 of us, they gave us the VIP passes so we didn't have to go out. We went, had the VIP treatment the rest of the day. And we never saw him. And when we came back from lunch, she came to me and she said that he was escorted out of the hotel, and that he was not allowed to come back into that hotel. So he kept calling me, he kept doing all that. Oh, gosh, you're making me relive all this. But
Very inspiring. Now, Mari, as a domestic violence survivor myself, my heart truly goes out to you, and you share a lot of important components in your story in regards to the importance of when an individual is aware that they are in a violent relationship, the importance of leaving that relationship
yeah,
because
yeah,
you're dangerous.
absolutely, absolutely. And what happened is that when I say God gave me the gift of him living, that was my that was my time to learn how to be without him. I learned to be by myself. I learned to live with my own my children, and I was working, and I just needed to learn how to figure out how to pay everything because I had no idea what was going on in the financial world either because that's how he was. He was in charge of everything. I was just in charge of the kids. He was so um, controlling that he even if I cleaned the house, he had to clean after me. That's how he was. So
Incredible. So you went
yeah.
from being financially abused to now being a certified money coach. Absolutely amazing. Very inspiring. Now, what is your best advice to the audience for walking with purpose and living a life of happiness?
Oh my goodness. Take charge of your own actions and be responsible um, for what you do, whether it's good or bad. If you know you did wrong, take responsibility. At times, you don't not necessarily have to go and talk to the person and ask for forgiveness. But if you have a spiritual way to ask for forgiveness and talk to their spirit, it's such a healing for you, and you contribute so much to that process of healing that next thing you know, either the person disappears from your life naturally, or you're just like, you know, I mean, life is never going back to, when you have an issue, once you forgive, life doesn't necessarily is perfect again, but at least you're able to be amicable and taking responsibility. That's what I've been doing. I take responsibility. I don't blame him. For my ex. I don't blame him for right now for what he did because I know that part of me wanted out, and that was the broadcast message I was sending, right? So I'm not saying I called for it for what happened, but I'm saying that I'm a part contributor to that situation, and by seeing it that way, I don't feel I'm a victim. I own myself, and I can move forward, and I can help my daughters. I have my four daughters have ownership of their actions also in their own relationships.
Amen. I love it. Now, Mari, where can the audience find you?
Oh goodness, healingfirefly.com, and you can also Facebook at Healing Firefly and on Instagram at Healing Firefly. And I'm here to help you, to guide you, whether it's behavioral money coaching, knowing what your flaws are, because that's basically what I do. It's not telling you how to use your money, but how to identify um, the different money personalities that we all have and which is the one that drives our car. And also by also helping you release your emotional traumas and help you empower you to be, to go from the victim point, being a victim, to actually being an empowered goddess.
Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out Mari at healingfirefly.com. And Mari, thank you for being a guest on Walk With Me podcast.
Thank
You're
you.
blessed.
Thank you so much.